Om. Om. Om Satchidananda Rupaya Vishvotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditarataschaarteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahmahridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yat Surayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrsha Dhamna Svena Sadani Rasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Ketavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Kim Vaparerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudyate Trakritibihi Shushrushubistatchana. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls and a joyous Navaratri to all. When you became old enough and you started to decide your own relationships, let's say at the end of middle school or high school and so on, a human being, went from just another mammal to becoming an acquaintance when you started to believe in them. What they said, what they did, you believed in them. In Sanskrit, we would call this astika, where you have a belief in this being. An acquaintance became closer, let's say a friend. Now, how did that happen? Belief deepened to faith. From astika to shraddha. This person is my friend. If they make me food, I'll eat it feeling safety and that this is tasty. Acquaintance, friend. When someone becomes even closer, we call them family. And how did that happen? From shraddha to vishvasa. In English, from faith to trust. In our case, we have 2 young children, and it is our family and family-like people with whom we leave them at night. Not every night, sometimes when we go. Correct? It's not just friends. It's not acquaintances. It's not mammals, but family and family-like people. Vishwas. Now tell me, what kind of relationship do you have with yourself? It doesn't have anything to do with belief or faith or trust. It is knowledge-based. It's experience-based. You know you. You don't have to trust yourself. You are you. This in Sanskrit we call bhava. The feeling of not even closeness, but oneness. From belief to faith to trust to oneness or being. I'm sharing all of this because the most important relationship we have is with ourselves. In Vedanta and Bhagavata, the name for ourself is Bhagavan Krishna. We are trying to go from believing, to having faith, to trusting, to feeling a oneness with Bhagavan Krishna. And please remember, he is in your heart, which also means he's in everyone's heart. The same feeling you have with yourself, imagine having that same feeling with all beings, including animals, plants, and stones. So our course is a deep course with deep positive implications. We are living in the period of Kali. How did this happen? Bhagavan Krishna's name, form, qualities became unmanifest. Kali comes from the word kala. Another English definition of kala, I've given you so many, is machine. Post-industrial revolution, everything is very machiney. Machine-based learning, artificial intelligence, and so on. Now people have machines that drive them. I told you this, but I'm sharing it again. I have found people who drive self-driving cars, they become bad drivers. When they actually have to drive, they don't know how to. What does this pedal do? So we are living in this period that is dominated by machines. We are dominated by machines. In Srimad Bhagavatam, with Kali comes Nirodha. What does Nirodha mean in English? Dissolution, it is where you feel the fundamental. Dissolution. Like ice becoming water and water becoming steam, it's becoming more and more dissolved, more and more causal. Us dissolving is a fact of life. Everything associated with you, particularly the body, is going to be dissolved. Agreed? Living is a terminal condition. No one can stop that. For anyone who internalizes this fact, then they flow with nirodha or death. Anyone who does not internalize this fact, then they fearfully age and experience nirodha. You've all met such people, those who are aging flowingly and those who age fearfully. Those who age fearfully, they don't accept this fact that nirodha has happened, is happening, will happen. In the 4th chapter, nirodha is shared in a different way, a different word. It is pralaya. Pralaya. How many of you are joining me for the highest vocation, our contemplation class in the morning? How many of you are joining me live by a show of hands? Okay. I have my eyes closed when I'm teaching, but I do sense, it's like my spidey sense, that people are struggling with laya. What does laya mean? Drowsiness, drowsiness, correct? On day 1, when we had started, we had more than 100 seekers joining live. On day 2, it shifted to 80. We can't practice at 5:30 a.m. We have to do it at p.m. So laya, you see this word pralaya. It means comprehensive sleepiness or dissolution. There are 4 types of pralaya. The first, nitya pralaya, in English, regular dissolution. I used references like being distracted, going to sleep. More big or comprehensive than this is naimittika pralaya. That is a special dissolution. It's not where you go to sleep, but it's where the creator, Bhagavan Brahma, goes to sleep. Third, Prakrita Pralaya, in English, a relative dissolution. There is no more relativity. The elements also have become unmanifest when Bhagavan Brahma dies. Regular, special, relative, but the most important is Atyantika Pralaya, which is absolute dissolution. Absolute dissolution is when you know the real. You know existence awareness. So what automatically happens? You unknow the unreal. The unreal doesn't affect you. You unknow Dvaita, that there is only existence awareness, and so you feel peace. Chapter 4 is clear to everyone. Now, we continue into chapter 5, which we got oriented towards last week. We're going to complete chapter 5, get into chapter 6. The next 20 minutes that I'm going to speak are going to be some of the most special 20 minutes of Srimad Bhagavata. Okay? So try to have this bhava, this feeling. In chapter 5, I'm rereading verse 2. Tvam tu rajan marishyeti pashubuddhim imam jahi najata prag abhutodya dehavatvam na nanangshasi. In English, I'm going to read the translation. That way I can keep focusing on what this means. This is Rishi Shuka speaking to Raja Parikshita. O king, give up the animalistic mentality of thinking, I am going to die. Unlike the body, you have not taken birth. There was not a time in the past when you did not exist, and you are not about to be destroyed. Some reflections on this verse. Rishi Shuka shares with Raja Parikshita that the vision of Bhagavata is to describe Bhagavan. Divinity is in the details. The more one gets immersed in the details of Bhagavan, the more one forgets the details of themselves. That they were born, that they're going to die. This is described as Pashu Buddhi, the notion of being born, and so one feeling that they're going to die. One who has such a mindset very much lives with fight, flight, freeze, instinctive, like an animal. Rishi Shuka gives some examples that you were not born, you are not going to die, like is the relationship between a parent and a child. Like is the relationship between a tree and a seed. You are beyond such limits. These relationships of cause and effect, that doesn't apply to you. Rishi Shuka shares why someone would feel this is because of the mind. Death, our fear of death, is an experience in the mind. And in the 11th section, the mind was given the qualification of Maya. So one who has this notion that they were born and they're going to die In the last section, this was described as succumbing to Maya. In this section, it is succumbing to not being a human, but rather being an animal. And this section with Rishi Shuka is completed. This is the last verse that Rishi Shuka speaks. We have flowed through thousands of verses from Rishi Shuka. This is his last opening of his mouth, his last teaching. This is what I had difficulty completing last week. I'm going to complete this week. Verse 13. I'm still in chapter 5. Etat te katitam tata yadatma prishtavan nripa harir vishwatmanash cheshtam kim bhuya shrotum ichasi. In English, the translation: Beloved King Parikshita, I have narrated to you the topics you originally inquired about, the pastimes of the Lord Hari, the supreme soul of the universe. Now, what more do you wish to hear? Here are some reflections. The vision of Srimad Bhagavatam is Vasudeva Anuchintya. Vasudeva Anuchintya. Vasudeva is another name for Bhagavan Krishna. Anuchintya means every thought of yours revolves around Bhagavan Krishna. And this is the truth. Your thoughts depend on awareness. Awareness does not depend on your thoughts. But you have to know this to be changed or transformed by this. Our thoughts are tied to Bhagavan Krishna, but we don't know it. So we don't benefit. Rishi Shuka is sharing with Raja Parikshita, what else do you want to know? You had 6 questions. I've answered these 6 questions. What else do you want to know? Because if there's more, then I will stop Takshaka. Here, Rishi Shuka's nature is being expressed, that he is the death of death. If you can visualize that Takshaka, which is this most poisonous being, this snake, is an icon of death. I'm going to describe that to you shortly. But Rishi Shuka can stop him. Rishi Shuka's willpower is stronger than world power. And here is where I was sharing last week how much he loves Raja Parikshita and us too. That his final words are coming to us directly. Rishi Shuka lives in the heart of Raja Parikshita, in the heart of Takshaka. He is existence awareness. And those are the final words of Rishi Shuka with the end of chapter 5. Now, chapter 6 is another Nirodha. In chapter 4, Nirodha in the form of Pralaya. In chapter 5, Nirodha in the final words of Rishi Shuka. Now, chapter 6, the Nirodha of Raja Parikshita. Verse 2. I have already mentioned Rishi Shuka doesn't speak anymore. So this is Raja Parikshita speaking to Rishi Shuka. Raja Uvacha Siddhosmya Anugrahitosmi Bhavata Karunatmana Shavito Yacha Me Sakshad Anadi Nidhano Harihi. I feel like saying joy after these verses. The translation: Maharaja Parikshita said, I've now achieved the purpose of my life because a great and merciful soul like you has shown such kindness to me. You have personally spoken to me this narration of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, Hari, which is without beginning or end. I'm checking in with everyone. You can see me and hear me clearly. Please show that to me, or you can write in the chat. Thank you. Some of the details around this verse. Before Raja Parikshita shares this with Rishi Shuka, he goes very close to him, and then he picks up Rishi Shuka's feet one by one. He didn't just pick him up, being so muscular, and he put them on his head. We usually bring our head to a great person's feet. The Raja Parikshita took those feet and put it on his head. And then he spoke all of this out. He goes on to further share, I have no fear. Put yourself in this position. You were told you have 1 week to live. Now, in this case, maybe 1 minute to live. If you had 1 minute to live, what would be the feelings in your head, in your heart, in your hands? For some of us, pashu buddhi, fight, flight, freeze. But with Raja Parikshita, he says, I have no fear. Just like Prince Arjuna will say, Nashta moha. I have no stress, anxiety, dejection. And then Raja Parikshita again shares, please bless me. Please give me permission to be enlightened. Bless me. Give me permission to be in samadhi, to absorb all of my identification to the spirit. Try to feel that detail of surrender to one's trust triangle. I've referenced that in Viveka Chudamani, the Shishya or disciple asks the Sadguru or guide if he or she can ask a question. That level of surrender or permission. Here he's asking, can I be in samadhi? And if someone asks that, what do you think Rishi Shuka said? No, let's travel for a little while. And so now these are our final words. Some of the final words I've described to of Raja Parikshita too. Rishi Shuka, his words are complete. Raja Parikshita, his words are complete now too. Rishi Shuka, an icon of fearlessness. And you can only give what you have. What did Rishi Shuka give to Raja Parikshita? Fearlessness. Here in our ashram, if you can see Bhagwan's hands, one hand is like this. Bhagwan saying, give me a high five. Life is easy. Symbolically, it is abhaya dana. The greatest form of dana or generosity is abhaya. Rishi Shuka obviously doesn't say yes. Even Rishi Shuka and Raja Parikshita have become one. So this is just felt. I'd recently read when Rishi Shuka was describing different bhaktas in Bhagavatam that we flowed through, he actually became each bhakta and spoke from that narrative. So when he was describing Bhakta Prahlada as an example, Rishi Shuka became Bhakta Prahlada and spoke from that depth. One of the greatest qualities that we can invoke is empathy. Rishi Shuka has done that. Rishi Shuka is in Raja Parikshita's heart and can feel his heart and has taught him accordingly. And so now when he asks for permission, Raja Parikshita can now feel Rishi Shuka in his heart. And so they don't have to exchange words. Our completing verse for this chapter, for this class, verse 8. Suta uvacha ityuktastam anujñapya Bhagavan Badarayinaha Jagama Bhikshubhi Sakam Naradevana Pujitaha. Who's speaking now? Not Rishi Shuka, not Raja Parikshita, but Suta. I had mentioned to you that there's 3 dialogues happening. The 3 main teachers are Rishi Shuka, the Suta, also known as Rishi Ugrashavas, and then the final dialogue is with us, this course itself. Rishi Ugrashavas said, thus requested the saintly son of Srila Vyasadeva gave his permission to Raja Parikshita. Then, after being worshipped by the king and all of the sages present, Shukadeva departed from that place. Everyone's following the sequence. Raja Parikshita felt Rishi Shuka in his heart, and he tried to worship Rishi Shuka. But Rishi Shuka's seva or work was done. Remember, he never stays anywhere longer than it takes to milk a cow. He never waited for that worship. It's like my parents were telling me once a large group of people were praising Pujaswami Tejomayananda. And this was becoming so common that his response to them was caught. C-O-T. What does C-O-T mean in English? Change of topic. I have no time for you to praise me. Change of topic. Let's keep moving. So Rishi Shuka, he didn't wait for the worship and he never waited for Raja Parikshita to be in Samadhi or even for Takshaka to come and bite him. He had full belief, faith, trust, feeling that Raja Parikshita is free now. It's like in basketball. When an athlete like me shoots, I don't have to look if the ball went in. I just turn around and walk away. Because I know I missed it. The feeling of what is shared in this verse is Rishi Shuka, Raja Parikshita, both have no doubt. Our doubt is whether Bhagavan is looking at us and looking after us. But when one feels no doubt, it's no longer about Bhagavan looking at us and looking after us. Bhagavan is. There is no more us. Bhagavan is. No doubt is a very powerful feeling. No doubt is a band. We casually say, no doubt. Are you going to have lunch? No doubt. Here, no doubt is very different. And Takshaka comes disguised as a Brahmana. Comes to that satsanga disguised as a teacher. And when everyone's at ease, their vigilance is down, quickly transforms into a snake and bites Raja Parikshita. And instantly, his body burns, just disintegrates. Like if you've ever seen someone in a cremation, I don't mean an outward one, like the gas one, where you're put in that chamber, almost instantly that body is burned. This is what happens to Raja Parikshita, and everyone who's gathered is stunned. How did this happen? They kind of let that go. They were stunned at how someone who a week earlier was sort of filled with fear, and now a week later is free. And so the finality of this scene is where the devas, the suras, who are gathered in heaven, they start to play music and offer flowers. That's a real celebration of life, correct? We just say celebration of life, but the best celebration of life is where one has become the death of death. Here's a final reflection. In the 11th section, Bhagavan Krishna died. And you know I mean died with huge brackets. And how gracefully he died. He was sitting in the jungle, he got shot by an arrow, and he died. In this section, how gracefully Raja Parikshita has died. He was in satsang, he was intensely poisoned, and he died. Srimad Bhagavatam teaches us the art of dying. And I really feel this is a master map in how the sections are designed, how the chapters are connected. So as we complete now our 161, imagine we have the same fate. We have 168 hours. Ours are more weeks, though. We have 8 weeks. Are you feeling the art of dying more?